Before we get into the video, I just want to say what a great result that was last night. My word, brilliant night to be a West Ham fan, especially after a really bad week. Pressure was mounting, as we said in the build-up to it. You felt that Moyes had to get the selection right and really give it a go. And when you're playing a team like Arsenal as well, second in the league and been in good form, obviously a very good side. I've got to admit, I'm sure that many fans will join me that leading up to that game, I was not very confident going in. I've got to admit, I did think that they would be too much for us, but no, it was very much the other way around. I thought excellent performance. But look, not here to talk about that. Here to talk about other things. Want to talk about the ownership situation at West Ham, which is changing. It certainly had a big bit of news come out regarding David Gold's shares, or the Gold family shares, in that they are for sale, or that. There's a few parts to this, and I think we need to sort of talk about them. And I'm probably going to go over a couple of little bits I've said before. Apologies for doing that, but I think for the context of this video, we kind of have to. So, in terms of the stadium situation, in terms of the ownership, so London Stadium, of course, the embarrassment clause in which the owners of the West Ham would have to pay a certain percentage of any sale of the club back to the government, basically, has now expired. So that was always sort of earmarked, and it was in March this year. It was also earmarked as a time that once that passes, then the club is effectively going to be for sale. I always believe, and I think a lot of people do believe, that the fact that is the case, that sort of without announcing it, that the club is kind of available for the right price. And David Sullivan's already kind of admitted that anyway. They've already said that if the right people come along, then they'll do it, if they're going to take the club in the right direction. But the David Gold situation, obviously David Gold sadly passed away, passed his shares on to Jacqueline, who then very, very sadly as well then passed away herself not too long after. This then put the shares in sort of like in freeze, and nothing could happen. So the ownership situation has always been sort of hanging around, and we're not really sure of what's been going on, and it's left a fair bit of doubt really of when things are going to happen. And then the other side of things as well is you've got what's going on at Manchester United. Now, certain people say, well, it has no connection. It may not. It really may not. But I do believe there is some kind of impact here it's having on West Ham a little bit, because you've got the Qatari investment there wanted to buy Manchester United. There was two bidders, wasn't they? So Jim Ratcliffe and the Qataris. So Jim Ratcliffe appears to have won this now, because he's now buying a certain percentage of the club, 25%, I believe, keeping the Glazers there, and eventually he's going to look to take over the course of a period of years. That's the indication what's going to happen there. And the Qataris wanted to buy it outright. That was what they wanted to do. I think they got very fed up with the process. Let's be honest, the process seemed ridiculous, dragging on and on and on. But the West Ham news now that's come out that's really significant is one, well, obviously, as I say, the Qataris have now pulled out of Manchester United, so they're now available. And we know they want to buy a Premier League club. The Premier League is a huge investment opportunity, and they want a slice of it. The Saudis obviously have got a slice in terms of Newcastle United. And the Qataris want some as well. I mean, they do have ownership already in France in terms of Paris Saint-Germain, but the Premier League is where it is at. And at the end of the day, we now all know that they are going to be looking for a Premier League club. Now, it's not just to say that it's obviously going to be West Ham, because there's obviously talk of Tottenham Hotspur being a possible club they might want to invest in. And there are others as well. I think Liverpool might be earmarked, a few others. But something's really interesting with West Ham this week, and it is really significant, is that West Ham have announced, when I say West Ham have announced, Vanessa Gold has announced publicly that they're willing to sell a percentage of the stake they've got in the West Ham. So they've got their own quarter of the club, 25%, and they're saying, well, we're thinking about offering up a sort of 8 to 10%. That's kind of what they're sort of saying. It's a bit loose, but it's interesting they've announced it, because a lot of people are suggesting, well, it's obvious then Daniel Kretinsky will probably buy that. That's the most likely outcome. Well, it doesn't appear that's actually the case. The reports are not suggesting that is a case at all. In fact, David Sullivan and Kretinsky are very unlikely to be doing that. So it poses the question, why announce it then? Why not? Because they've already said, we've already instructed our bank or investment bank to go and find this investors. That's how they've sort of announced it. But the fact they've made it public, I think, is a big part of this. And the timing's interesting, considering the fact the Qataris have only just recently pulled out of Manchester United. We're only talking, a couple of weeks ago, have announced it. Then suddenly West Ham effectively are shouting, this is for sale. And that's a big difference here. And a big difference between, say, Tottenham Hotspur and Liverpool, etc. This is quite interesting because West Ham they're literally saying there's a quarter of this club available. And the reason I say a quarter of the club is because the Times have now put out an article suggesting, well, one, like I've just said about the Qataris, that West Ham would be very open to this, them coming into the football club. But two, that they're actually saying, well, actually, the Gold family would be willing to sell the lot, which, let's be as an outsider looking in, makes sense, in my opinion. Because David sadly no longer with us. It was his investment, it's his football club. He was the one that had the passion for West Ham. I don't know Vanessa, but does she want to be at West Ham? Is this her passion in life? Does she want to be sitting on the board? Let's be honest. West Ham, we're a difficult bunch to please sometimes, and it can't be an easy gig sometimes sitting on that board and dealing with the big decisions that have to be made of the football club. And I don't know. You just sometimes think, as I say, I could be getting putting two and two together here and getting 5 out of this, but in life, when I've ever experienced or had experiences where, you experience loss or etc. in your life, it does make you think, and it makes you want to sort of take different directions, and you do wonder whether, is that the Gold's ambition now? Are they just thinking, well, we want to pull away and do something else with our lives? It would make sense. So the Times are reporting, actually, although Vanessa has come out and said 8 to 10% sort of that's what's available and considering selling those shares, they actually believe that they'd sell the whole lot. Which is very interesting when you think of then a future owner. Let's just say the Qataris for now. I'm not saying that would definitely happen, but let's just say, because they could literally come in and buy that. We know they've got the money. The money is not going to be a problem for them. And then they come into a football club, effectively. And although that the news is coming back, apparently from the inside of the football club, i.e. from the top, is that, well, it's unlikely because the Qataris would want to take full ownership. Well, you'd have one foot in the door immediately, wouldn't you? You could say, well, we are going to take over for West Ham. That is our plan. We will take over. But look, let's go and get 25% now. It's available. We can go and do it. It's really interesting. It's really, really interesting in terms of the developments that are happening. I just think that the timing of it is quite important. And the fact they've announced it. I mean, they didn't, as I say, they didn't need to publicly announce this. They could have kept this very quiet. Although the club before, I mean, if you remember when Daniel Kretinsky came on board, all the club had said before was, oh, we would like for a future investor to come forward. We'd like to, if we can get someone to come and invest in West Ham, that'd be great. That's all they kind of ever said. They didn't announce that things were for sale. They didn't come out and say, right, by the way, this percentage is for sale of the club. We're willing to sell this. That was never said. The Kretinsky acquisition of his shares kind of came out of nowhere, really, didn't it? It was something, well, when I say come out of nowhere, we heard about it, and within like a week or two, it was done. Whereas this is, for me, a come and get me. This is we are for sale. Not necessarily the full club is for sale, but those shares are for sale. The Times are not, I feel like I'm bad, slagging off the Star. The Daily Sport, let's use them today. It's not a little column at the back. Oh yeah, they're going to sell. This is a reliable journalism in terms of the Times, who are stating that they believe that West Ham want the Qataris to come forward. They want to entice them over. And this is their way of doing so. And that, in fact, that this 10% that Vanessa has now said is actually, it's not true. It's the full whack. It's the 25%. It's a quarter of a Premier League football club. Let's not take that away. That's a good opportunity, isn't it? If you're the Qataris, look, considering what they've just gone through, considering the fact they've just had the best part of a year, putting bid after bidding after bidding and going for all these meetings and God knows what, no doubt having to have their accounts verified and God knows what else to try and acquire Manchester United. They're no doubt bloody exhausted. I'm sure they're drained by the whole experience. Wouldn't you be tempted if someone said to you, well, I'll tell you what, it's a quarter of a Premier League club. It's available now. You can just go and buy it and it's yours. And then you own a quarter of and then you can then go on to say, right, I'm going to acquire the rest of these shares. I want to become majority shareholder of the club, but I've already got one foot in the door. It makes my life a lot easier. It's worth, look, it's not fact, is it? It's not suggested. It's nothing. It's not come out and said this is definitely happening, that the Qataris are going to take over West Ham, etc., etc. But I think that there are a few coincidences now that seem to be happening. The timing of it is a big one. The fact that they've just pulled out and now West Ham are announcing that the club, part of the club's for sale. Even 10%. I mean, 10% of West Ham is a big amount, isn't it? It's, West Ham's a huge football club worth a lot of money in the Premier League, which generates billions of pounds around the world and is widely recognised. We know the Qataris want a slice of this. So, look, nothing's factual at the moment. Nothing's really absolutely, they're going to come in and take over. This is definitely happening. But I'll tell you what, I hate to say that phrase, no smoke, without fire, but it really does feel like that. It feels like there's a few things happening here at West Ham. We've all known for quite some time that past that point of the embarrassment clause that the club effectively was going to be for sale. And I just think that with the announcement, with the fact that this has happened just after the Qataris have now pulled out of Manchester United, this is certainly one to keep an eye on.